What's up everyone on the internet? Thank you for making this video part today. I'm so excited because we are finally in the month of April and I figured, you know what, let's start the month off with one of my personal favorite biopics, Ford v Ferrari. So this movie came out back in 2018 and was directed by James Mangold, who not only made one of my favorite comic book movies of all time, which would be Logan, but he also made one of my favorite Western films of all time, and that would be 3:10 to Yuma, which I will actually do a review later on this year. But like I said, this movie came out a couple years ago and it's pretty much a retelling of how Ford Company literally went to war with France back in 1966 at the Le Mans race in France. And one of the things that I really liked about the film is how it balances out the two different perspectives that happened on and off the racetrack. When you look at how things happened off the racetrack, you see it through the eyes of Carroll Shelby, played by Matt Damon, who was pretty much the money behind the whole operation. At the same time, when you look at how things happened on the racetrack, you see it through the eyes of Ken Miles, who was played incredibly by Christian Bale and is pretty much racing against Ferrari throughout the entire movie. Honestly, Christian Bale can do no wrong because he gives 110% to every role he is given. Whether he's playing Batman, the Dark Knight trilogy, which in fact was my introduction to Batman in general. I also love the character he played in 3:10 to Yuma, and I also liked how he portrayed Bagheera in the whole Netflix John Book movie. And his take on Dick Cheney in Vice is scary good. And also, he made Thor Love and Thunder worth watching as Gore. I'm a big fan of Christian Bale. But anyway, going back to the movie, one of the things that I really liked about these two characters was how they're pretty much polar opposites of one another, and yet they work perfectly together for when it came to tackling this big, huge challenge. When you look at Shelby, you can see how he's a very calm, very level-headed character who was very good at negotiating to gain support from Ford Company. Now, when you look at Miles, he is the hot-headed, direct character that served as the literal driving force for the story. One thing they both share in common is how they will not compromise whatsoever. And I love how there are moments where you not only get to see these characters work well together, but there are also moments where you get to see these characters get under each other's skins to the point where you can say that they're pretty much brothers. Another thing that I also liked about this movie was how it's pretty much a trial and error process, and what I mean by that is that throughout the entire story, we're pretty much seeing how this car went through so many renditions, so many setbacks before we get the final product that goes up against Ferrari in the final race. And even when we're off the racetrack, you get to see the whole power struggle that happened within Ford Company for when it came to decide on who would drive the car and who would benefit more from this whole ordeal. So you could say that this was pretty much an uphill battle for Ford. But I mean, what do you expect when you go up against Ferrari, who held the winning title for Le Mans 8 times? 3 of those victories came in between the years of 1954 and 1958, and 5 of those victories came in between 1960 and 1965. And one of my favorite moments in the film was when you see Ferrari just trash talk Ford. And I love how sometimes a little roast can light a fire in someone. And this pretty much prompts Ford into launching an all-out war against Ferrari. Okay, so enough with the politics and technical side of the story. Let's talk about the racing. I mean, given the title, you can expect to see a lot of racing moments in this film. But because we live in a world where there are 9 Fast and Furious movies with a 10th one on the way, I have mixed feelings. On the one hand, I love how this race is pretty much aggressive as we see both Ford and Ferrari go at each other on the track. But on the other hand, I do wish that there was a bit more spectacle in the race, but then again, this did happen in real life, so don't expect someone to drift on the racetrack while hitting the NOS. With that being said, I love the movie to a certain point, and what I mean by that is I think the movie should have ended with our characters walking off the racetrack. It's what happens after that scene where I'm pretty much like, oh, well, that ended on a downer of a note. You know how in most biopics, the movie ends by fading to black and showing white text that pretty much tells you what happened to the characters after the film? Yeah, I think this film should have done that instead of showing us an epilogue scene that pretty much gives you a bittersweet taste. But despite that ending, I still enjoyed most of the movie as it pretty much puts you right in the middle of all the heated moments that happen both on and off the racetrack. So if you're thinking about watching a movie this weekend, I highly recommend you watch this film. Well, that's going to do it for this video, guys. That was my overall review for Ford v Ferrari. If you like what you saw, click the subscribe button to see all these updates from this channel. I'll see you next time with a brand new video. Bye-bye.